What is up, everybody? Welcome to the second episode of the group meeting here at fanboysanonymous.com. And if you don't know what this is, well, let me put it to you simple here. We took a bunch of the fanboys that we have here. We're going to take one basic topic, break it down into a lot of other topics, and just have a roundtable discussion about everything on our minds. Pretty simple podcast, but we're going to get into the nitty-gritty on the DC film universe here. And we're going to make it much, much more complicated than it needs to be, I'm sure. I'm your host for this evening's festivities, Tony Mango, the founder of Fanboys Anonymous. And with me on this podcast panel, we have the Dace man, Chris Dace.
Hey, Dace Tactical Nation, how's it going?
We have Orion Petitclerc.
What's up?
Sam Lassio.
Rock and roll.
And joining us a little bit later on will be Nikki Mills. She's going to be the Wonder Woman of this podcast, which it means that she's going to feel slightly out of place, but we'll welcome her to it anyway. So we have a lot of stuff to talk about. We're going to break this up into multiple different categories and split the video, if you're watching this on YouTube, into those categories. If you're watching it, or rather I should say listening to it, on Stitcher or on iTunes, just one giant file, but you'll get the same thing, so don't worry about that. But subscribe to the YouTube one anyway, by the way, youtube.com/fanboysanon. What we're going to be talking about first up is Superman versus Batman. Then we're going to roll along to Wonder Woman. We're going to, in the third part, talk about The Flash and Green Lantern. Then the inclusion of the offshoot characters, comparisons to the Avengers film franchise. And we're going to lastly finish this off with our ideas of the plans for the sequel solo films and the Justice League film and the sequels to that. So now that we got that out of the way, first main topic here, umbrella topic, I should say, for everything that we're going to talk about in regards to just this one film, Superman versus Batman. I'm going to go around the panel here. What do you think the title should be? A couple things that have been thrown out there as potentials that they might be calling it are as follows, and these all have Man of Steel before it, so this is like that the subheading kind of a thing. Battle the Night, spelled with a K. Black of Night, spelled with a K. Beyond Darkness. Darkness Falls. Night Falls, spelled with a K again. Shadow of the Night with no K, because why not, right? The Blackest Hour, and The Darkness Within. And what's also been rumors that they would just call it World's Finest or Public Enemies or the whole Superman versus Batman, Batman versus Superman, so on and so forth. So just going in the same order here, Dace, what do you think the title should be for this movie? We don't even have a title yet.
I'm okay with the Superman versus Batman, but judging on the storyline that it sounds like they're going to, I would just simply call it The Dark Knight Returns. Only for the fact that it sounds like Superman is the man on the scene for this film franchise. It's ahead of the Chris Nolan era, and technically Batfleck is going to be the one who's returning to confront Superman. So to me, The Dark Knight Returns is more of a proper fitting.
You don't think that that would confuse fans by thinking that it's the same continuity as the Christian Bale ones?
I think it would be great for Warner Brothers to get more money, because it would confuse them to come out and see it. Like, oh no, another Dark Knight movie, I'm going. It's perfect, because we like things that are overhyped.
They get pissed off when they all go to see it, and they're like, wait, who's this guy as Batman?
I don't remember Bane being in this.
Yeah, they're already mad as it is. Just piss them off some more, get some more money.
Orion, what do you think it should be called?
Should be called Man of Steel 2 Batman.
Pretty simple title. Why not, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to be about Batman anyways.
Sam, what do you think?
I would, if you're gonna do the Man of Steel thing before it, I would either say Man of Steel, Public Enemies, or just call it World's Finest.
I gotta go with you can't do Man of Steel. That's just gonna seem really odd. And I know that it's kind of supposed to be a sequel to it, but it really isn't. I mean, it's more so just like Justice League Zero or something. It's a prequel to Justice League more than it is a sequel to Man of Steel. So I don't think
Which
you do
worries
any
me
Man of Steel
because
whatsoever in it.
Can I go
that,
again?
Yeah, you
that
can.
really worries me because I felt the exact same way about Iron Man 2. That it wasn't really an Iron Man sequel. It just felt like, let's set up Avengers as best we can before it happens.
But before I get Orion's second opinion on that, I kind of disagree with that. I think Iron Man 2 felt like an Iron Man sequel. It just um, had a weird placement. They shouldn't have done Iron Man 2. They should have done a Shield movie in that place. And they should have done Iron Man 2 as the first thing after Avengers, I think. But then again, that's a whole Marvel thing. We're going into DC. But I think that that would be
Yeah.
the difference between whether or not to justify Iron Man 2 or Man of Steel 2 kind of thing. But what do you think, Orion?
I think if they want to keep Man of Steel, it should be Man of Steel 2, Man of Steel versus Man of Bat.
Well, they would keep the Man of Steel 2 part? Because they could just do Man of
Yeah.
Steel versus...
Yeah. No. We have to have Man of Steel twice to offset the awesomeness of Man of Bat.
I would just go with either Superman and Batman, not necessarily versus, or Superman versus Batman, or if they need something else and they don't want to go it Superman and Batman, you got to go Superman and Batman : Public Enemies. I don't really think that they should influence the Public Enemies thing 100%, the storyline itself, but I like the idea of both Superman and Batman being outcasts in this movie, and eventually that they need to sort of work their way into the Justice League where they're, the public figures. So if they take the idea that Superman is not 100% viewed as like that god that we can trust, where they implied a little bit of that at the end of the movie, but the more that somebody like Luthor can show the footage, if he has access to the footage of Superman killing Zod, it'll be like, well, what do you agree with? Was that a good idea or was that a bad one? And then you kind of have like that Republican versus Democrat argue in the movie. And then Batman, he can be a public enemy just in the fact that he's fucking Batman. Like, they can still go with the idea that he's a mysterious legend and the cops aren't into him yet and all this other kind of stuff. I don't like the idea that Batman's been a veteran of this for years and years and years, but I do like that he's been around longer. Because Batman should be around longer. Like, he should be the guy that when he's talking to Superman, he goes, yeah, you might be the more powerful one, but motherfucker, I've been doing this for, a couple years now. Kneel before Batman, fucking instead of kneel before Zod. Like,
I think a good honorable mention for a title should be Man of Steel 2: Runaway Train, and they should play Soul Asylum in the background because this project seems to be getting away from them.
They're gonna change it though. It's gonna be sung by Arkham Asylum. Just for specific rights to the movie.
Yeah.
My only fear with the title of it having Batman in it or implying Batman in the title is only because I don't know the extent to which Wonder Woman plays a role in this film. Is she going to be in it as much as the other two? Is she like towards the end she pops up? Like, I don't know. So like they say Batman versus Superman, but now you've got this third wheel that kind of stuck on there. So if you call it like Batman, Superman, da 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 da, well, what about Wonder Woman? But then if you call it like Public Enemies, then you could just say, well, maybe Wonder Woman's a public enemy. They see her as a foreigner that they don't understand. If you do World's Finest, that she's still able to be under that umbrella of World's Finest. But if you mention Batman's name in a Man of Steel, like Man of Steel 2, Batman versus Superman, or just Batman versus Superman, something like that, then it's almost like excluding the third character they brought into this.
From my understanding, which of course, these details can be completely falsified or whatever, I think she only plays a really like small bit part. And I don't think that she's actually Wonder Woman in it. The one rumor that I had heard that seemed to have a little bit of validity to it to me was Wonder Woman would be posing as an investor of something, some kind of like an artifact or whatever that the Wayne Foundation is tied to. And she would almost kind of be like this background figure that at the end it would be like, oh, and she's Wonder Woman. And that would be like the introduction to her, sort of. I mean, we're going to talk about different ways to introduce.
Like,
what was that?
So she's going to basically just be Diana Prince to the whole thing?
Right, yeah. So
Oh.
if she isn't Wonder Woman, then they don't need to factor her into the title. But we're going to talk about Wonder Woman when we get to the next part here. Title-wise, though, I do agree with you. If she does have a big part, then that's going to be awkward. One other thing with the title, though, that has to do with the logo about it, because obviously they haven't shown a logo for the movie yet other than just the Bat logo and the Superman one. I personally don't like that Bat one, by the way. I don't know if anybody else likes that. Does anybody like that?
That bat is god awful.
It's too
I
fat.
wasn't a big fan of it. Yeah, it was too thick, too blocky, too geometric, basically.
What do you think about that, Orion? Do you like that?
Well, from last, I haven't looked at it in a while, but it kind of reminded me something along the lines of, The Dark Knight Returns, that bat symbol, sort of, which was kind of okay, I guess. I mean, it's classic.
I always like the sharper ones. Like more points to it and stuff. I don't know if they could really necessarily do that, especially
How about-
to incorporate the Superman logo into it, but
How about they bring back the 1989 Batman bat symbol?
I love that symbol. I do like the newer one, but I gotta say that 1989 one's a lot better, I think, overall.
Yeah.
But that'll depend on the name of the movie, too, because if they call it something as simple as, like, World's Finest, and they don't have Batman or Superman in the title, they need to really drive home that logo so people know what the hell it is.
Right.
And if they just call it Superman and Batman, I mean, they could have a standard Captain America type of thing in the background or something like that and get away with it. Of course, they're going to incorporate the logos, but, let's go to one of the other huge topics about this. This is a long time waiting. We talked about it on the website itself, but never had a chance to talk about it on a podcast. Really, there is one mention of an episode of Geek Speak where some of the members had talked about it, but let's get this out of the way while we're at it. Batfleck. The quote that I like that I've been hearing a lot lately, even on a commercial for some new TV show called Sirens, is, "Oh, don't worry, he's going to crush it." And the more that I think on this, and the more time that I dwell on different Batman things, I'm actually really liking this casting. And all of those fears that I had at first when it was like, what, fucking Ben Affleck? No, this has to be a joke. It's the same thing that happened with Daniel Craig for James Bond, where I was just like, this dude's fucking not Bond. He's got blonde hair and he looks like he's 50, and no, this can't happen. And then Daniel Craig turned out to actually know and understand the character really well. Ben Affleck, and I didn't know this before, I don't know if anybody else knew this, the only reason he really did Daredevil was because at that time he had the mentality of, well, they're not going to do another Batman one, so this is the closest that I can get. And on Kevin Smith's podcast, Fat Man on Batman, he was talking about it because he and Kevin Smith are friends. Ben Affleck, I mean. He was talking about how his house is the one that he bought from Ben Affleck, and there's this section of the house that Affleck had always referred to as the Batcave. Like, he is a huge Batman fan. So if he's going into this as a huge Batman fan, he's got to have some kind of an emotional tie to the character where he doesn't want to see it get messed up. So I don't think we have to worry about any bat nipples. I don't think we have to worry about him, playing up the character in a weird way. So I think Ben Affleck, he could be a damn good Batman. What do you think about it, Dace?
I think it's the same reaction that all fanboys will have initially. Everybody was up in arms about Heath Ledger. Everybody was up in arms about Chris Evans, Anne Hathaway. Anytime they make this announcement of one of our childhood heroes and it's not who we want it to be, we get all defensive. And like you said, I really think he is going to be committed to it. And I think the backlash that comes to a person of this causes them to work harder and do more research and don't just lackadaisically be like, oh, well, I'm now Batman. And they come out and act like, I don't know, Green Lantern or something. But more or less, I think Ben Affleck has proven himself as an actor. He has proven himself as a director, and he is also, as we can tell, committed to the Batman role. And I think just the haters are going to hate, and he'll do a hell of a job with it.
What do you think, Ryan?
Well, I mean, I think the same thing, but I gotta have Matt Damon as Robin.
I actually really like the idea of Matt Damon playing Barry Allen. I don't know, there's something about that I think works out, but he can't be Robin.
I think he'd be a good Hal Jordan if they do go with that Green Lantern. Only for the fact that I think Ben Affleck and Matt Damon can fight really well on screen when they argue and bicker, and it'd be hilarious.
That would be the one scene where the Boston accent comes through.
Yeah.
Just like acting like brothers and stuff. Sam, what do you think about Batfleck? Are you on board, or do you think it's retarded?
Uh, I was like everyone else. I was apprehensive at first, but you know what? Like everyone else has said, he's definitely proven himself as an actor. Yeah, all actors have. You can name a couple shitty movies they've done. I can't hold Daredevil against Affleck. I mean,
No.
if there was a lot of problems with that movie, he wasn't really one of them. Things like Geely, I'm not gonna question his acting styles in that as far as Batman goes, but he's definitely a great director. He loves Batman. I would love to see him direct a either solo Batman film or even the Justice League. I think that would be really cool. And yeah, I mean, what else can you say that you guys haven't said? I mean, he definitely loves the character, and we all have characters that we love, and if we got the chance to play that character, there's no way in hell we would want to mess that up.
What do you think? I'm going to go reverse mode here. What do you think about Jeremy Irons? Do you think that that's as friggin' awesome as I do for Alfred?
I mean, you got fucking Scar as Alfred. I mean, that's gonna be really cool.
There's going to be a scene in the movie where he kills Batman, and it turns out to be this whole big plot.
I killed Thomas Wayne and then drops him from a building or something.
Orion, what do you think about Alfred? Is it good that he's in the movie? Do you think that Jeremy Irons is the right man for the role, or is that kind of a surprise?
Well, unfortunately, outside of him voice acting Scar, I honestly don't know the actor that well. I don't know. I mean, I might have seen him in other movies, but I wouldn't remember just based on his name. Um, but sure, I mean, you can bring pretty much. I mean, I liked the last actor who played Alfred. I terrible with names, but in the Dark Knight trilogy,
Michael
I
Caine?
like. Yeah, Michael Caine. I liked him as Alfred. I don't know how it's gonna do with a almost younger Alfred, because this guy's like significantly younger than Michael Caine, obviously. So we'll see how that works out. But I'm excited to see how they redo Alfred in this respect.
He might not actually be that much younger. He might only be like maybe a year or two younger.
Oh well, I might have been looking at the wrong photos then.
I think he just ages a little bit better. Which that's actually one of the things they incorporated into the character over the years. I mean, it used to be that Alfred was just this old, crotchety kind of guy, but they've gotten into a point now where his backstory is more so that he was a member of the British intelligence, and he can kick some ass too. You know what? You are right. Jeremy Irons is 65. Michael Caine is 80.
Yeah, but just 1 or 2 years.
Yeah. Well, he looks pretty good for his age. So I just see that.
The whole thing you brought up about how Alfred in the comics has been, better aged now with all of his background and stuff, just reminds me of how Aunt May used to be this old crotchety looking woman, about to be on her deathbed or something, and now you look at her in the comics like she really aged well.
Yeah. Even in the Spider-Man cartoon, she's like 40.
Ugh, not the cartoon.
Well, that's terrible. But Dace, what do you think about Jeremy Irons?
It's tough. I like him as an actor, and everything I've seen him in, he's been a very dominant, intelligent role. I think Jeremy Irons as a Alfred would be better suited for the Gordon television that's coming to Fox, because I know they're going the direction of Batman Year One, and it's a younger Bruce Wayne, so he could be the dominant father figure in it. I think in a movie with Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and possibly others, he's going to get lost in that group, and he's too strong of a person and an actor to actually play Alfred. I think they needed a more of a older, wiser background character rather than someone like Jeremy who steals the friggin' scene every time he's in it anyway.
You think that maybe they purposely locked him into a bunch of different movies, and when we get a solo Batman film, that'll be his time to shine?
I do. It's weird though because, like I said, uh, him playing Alfred and Batman is supposed to be a little bit older. It doesn't make sense. If Batman was younger, like basically if Jeremy was in The Dark Knight Rises, where Christian Bale kept trying to go fight Bane, I would believe Jeremy telling him, "No, look, you're an idiot. Stop it." More so than Michael Caine, because Michael Caine has I would say, a softer side to him, whereas Jeremy is more of a forceful, that ex-marine, secret, intelligent background that we would want to see. And I think being with Batfleck being aged a little bit, it'd be tough.
Good points.
Though, the way that I see it, knowing that he's going to be Alfred, I imagine that somewhere in the movie they're going to give him maybe not like a speech, like this whole monologue, but probably this motivational piece where maybe Batman doesn't want to join Superman, doesn't want to combine and like face this other threat of Luthor or whatever Luthor decides to do in the film. And I imagine Alfred as giving him this pep talk almost. Like, you know what? You were the Batman. I didn't support it at first, but you made it your own, and I'm proud of you for what you were able to do for Gotham. But now you have to come out of retirement. You faced your villains of the past, but now there's a new villain, there's new heroes, and you need to step up as one of them.
I'm actually hoping there's a variation to that. I hope that they don't say that um, Batman was retired. I hope he's just like maybe, depending on when they set the film to happen, I would like for him to be a 2 or 3 year veteran in front of Superman. Superman comes on the scene and he starts the whole thing with the invasion of Zod and all that. Maybe 2 years Batman's been doing it since then, and that's why he's like a little bit um, still inexperienced. He's not somebody who's been doing it for 10 years and they still don't know who Batman is, and he's already fought all of his villains and all that. I don't like the idea of him being a retired Batman. I never liked the idea of Batman retiring, period, but um,
Yeah.
I kind of was hoping that something similar would happen, that what you said, that I think Alfred is going to be that character that Batman can talk to throughout the movie, because otherwise he's not going to be talking to Clark Kent or Lois or anybody else. He needs somebody to talk to, and I could see that being the main Jeremy Irons scene, where he's just like, "All right, I'm going to chew the scenery here. This is my Alfred scene where I get to tell you to let it go, and hey, you know Batman is fine with Alfred. Why can't Batman be fine with Superman?" And then he just goes like, "Fuck you, old man. You're right." Like, one thing I'm not on board with though is another huge thing. Uh, in the total opposite of the Ben Affleck thing, Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. I don't like it. I will explain it a little bit later. I want to get your opinions first, but I've got two main things that bother me about it. Dace, what do you think about Eisenberg?
I think he's a little too young. I know he did a good job in the Social Network movie, but Zuckerberg was young, and that fit Eisenberg, and he did a great job at it. I feel like Lex needs to be someone who's been in the business for a while, who's ruthless, and they established in Man of Steel that LexCorp is actually it's huge already. There's already like things going around. So to me, that's a middle-aged, like that's a man in his 30s or older. That's the only problem I have with it. I think he's an excellent actor. I think he could be a great Lex for like maybe an Arrow stint or a Flash stint or even Gordon, a younger version of Lex. But I can't see it for where I think they're going to be going with this movie.
Orion?
Well, I mean, for me, it's uh, getting past his normal character tropes. You know how he tends to be very cocky in all the movies I've seen him in, and even in like he was in a recent episode of Modern Family, and he's had the same kind of character. I mean, like like I said, he has the same character throughout each film and television series I've seen him in, and it's getting past that part. But otherwise, I think he's basically almost at the same point as Batfleck, where people may be underestimating him, uh, but for me, it's just gonna have to be he can't be playing the same character he's been playing.
Sam, are you on board with it?
You know, I think I am. I don't know enough about him as far as an actor as is he typecast? Where do they have all these characters that are essentially the same and they cast him in the role? Or does he play the same character in every role that he's in? I don't know if it's a problem with flexibility, like he can't get past that same character he always does, or if they just put him in that role. Also, he does look young. I will give you that. He's technically the same age as Henry Cavill. Just Henry Cavill looks like he's 5 years older, and he looks like he's 5 years younger. the the thing that I've heard though, and I don't know how true this is, but they're saying that this Lex is supposed to be like a grew up on the street, has like a lot of street smarts and book smarts. He fought a lot while he was a kid, and now that he's older, he's built up this company, and it blew up. It exploded into a $1 billion company. So I don't really know, honestly, too much about the backstory of Lex Luthor. The only backstory I've ever seen of him came from Smallville, where his father was the head of the company and he adopted it. So I don't know if him being like from a poorer background creating LexCorp is too far away from the character. I don't know about that, but I can see it from based on what he did in the Social Network. He was cocky. He had this sneer to him where he knew he was better than you. And I think he can bring that to Lex. He was in I didn't see the movie, but I've seen a lot of trailers and stuff for it and some clips. The magician one, what was it called?
Now you see me.
Now You See Me, that was it. He From what I saw in that, he was older looking than I'd seen him in any of the other movies he was in. So as far as him looking young, I mean, they definitely got to shave his head. I got to say that. I was on the fence about it sometimes, like what could they do? He's got to be bald.
He has to be.
And I don't know if he's going to look older being bald. He's going to look younger being bald. I can't say. But from some of just the fan art of making him look like Lex Luthor, I think he's got the look down, and I think he can bring that Social Network cockiness to Lex.
And that's another thing too. Will they make him bald?
I think they have
I
to.
don't see how they can.
One of the things that bothers me about this is I could see them not making him bald, and that's something that really annoys me because I'm so tired of Lex not being Lex in these movies. We've had two different people play Lex so far, and they still weren't able to give him the proper magnitude that he should.
Lex was a bum idiot in all the other films.
Totally. He was a joke, and not only did he not represent a good enough threat when it comes to the storyline itself with their ideas of like, oh, let's have him try to figure out how to get fucking real estate, and he's gonna, prance around like an idiot and have to have wigs on because it's like, wouldn't it
Yeah.
be funny if the bald guy had wigs? Ha ha ha, I get it.
I
Like,
don't know. I don't remember where I heard it, but he is basically a glorified land baron.
right. It's really a shame because the character is so rich with possibilities. For those who aren't too familiar with it, this is a quick rundown. He's had a bunch of different backstories over the years, so of course it's kind of like certain elements carry over, certain ones don't. But originally he just started off as a mad scientist character. There's just a bald scientist guy that it was just like, oh, okay, well he's a generic scientist that's got something weird fighting Superman. But they got to a point where his accepted kind of backstory was that Lex pretty much built this company by himself, and he's incredibly proud of it, and he's a total egomaniac where everything in his life so far, other than the fact that he's bald, has been a triumph. Lex Luthor is basically like the perfect type of person that you would want to be when you aspire to be like what Hollywood kind of broadcasts. He is an attractive guy, he is muscular, he's strong, He's incredibly intelligent, one of the most intelligent men in the entire planet. Um, he's one of the richest men in the entire planet. He's well spoken. Everything is admirable about him, except behind that Hollywood image, he is just a maniac because he's not insane, and that's what gives him a little bit of an edge. He's perfectly sane. He's just power hungry, and he's a dick, and he will do anything he can do to succeed. And his ego is mainly the thing that gets him in the way with Superman because he looks at Superman as the one guy who is viewed as better than him. And for somebody like a Jesse Eisenberg, I get that they can show that, but at the same time, I think they're going to show it in the wrong way. They're going to show him as being a spoiled brat who is, yeah, he might be the same age as Henry Cavill, but he doesn't have the same physical appearance. So he's going to look in comparison like a spoiled little kid who has a problem with an adult authority figure. And I don't want them to make this the Social Network where Lex Luthor is this kid who happened to just be a brilliant guy who kind of the mentality of like these people that get on YouTube and they're really successful, like the Justin Biebers and stuff. And it's like, oh, he's a 13-year-old kid and he's making as much money as Madonna. I don't want that to happen to Lex. I want Lex to be somebody who is an imposing figure and who can fight somebody and maybe could even fight Batman. And if you mean to tell me that fucking Jesse Eisenberg is going to fight Batman and get away with it, no. I just can't see it. Maybe
If he can fight Aquaman, he can do anything.
Oh, well, I think a school of fish could fight Aquaman.
Well, from what I've heard, again, just rumors could be, like tomorrow, this could turn out to be totally wrong. But from what I've heard, Lex is like you said, he's the self-made man. And because he's the self-made man, he has this pride, this just cocky attitude to him. And they said that when he meets with Bruce Wayne, like it's obvious that he's going to do in the movie, they're both billionaires, that he does not like Bruce Wayne, where he sees Bruce Wayne as this guy who the only reason he's a billionaire is because he inherited it. So he was given everything. He was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, while he had to literally fight and claw his way to build a billion-dollar business. So that's definitely going to set him at odds with Bruce.
Mhm.
That attitude could definitely set him. Another thing that I guess a lot of people didn't like Man of Steel in the way for him, obviously, like killing Zod and stuff like that, and the destruction that he caused. If you treat Man of Steel as a way of looking at the sequel, Superman, this had to be an origin story for Superman. He couldn't be Superman throughout the movie. I think the way they described it was he isn't actually Superman until the end of the film. The film kind of makes him into Superman. And if I take that as what they're going to do with Lex, Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor can only start out as a businessman. He can have all those personality traits, but he can't really be the villain until midway to towards the end of the movie. He can't start out as what we picture as Lex Luthor. He has to become that somehow.
And I was going into it thinking he became it at the end of Man of Steel, where in the background he was just like, somebody messed up Metropolis, the thing that I built, and this is like a personal shot at me. And who did it? Oh, this guy? What? The people are talking about this guy? Fuck this guy. That kind of a thing. And they would do like a little bit of a backstory of him rebuilding Metropolis and making it a whole big thing of like, he's not the guy you should be paying attention to. You should still be focused on me. You're taking away my pride. Like,
right. Like you call this guy Superman and he's not even a man.
Right. You never called me Superman. I'm the one who built this fucking city. Like that kind of a thing. And my whole big issue with it is basically just down to the way that Jesse Eisenberg looks. And it's really a shame. But if you would have given me a 30-something-year-old guy, not an older guy too. I hate the idea when they keep going older. You give me somebody who looks the same age as Henry Cavill, and that's also something I had a problem with Amy Adams. I don't think she's a good Lois Lane at all, and I think part of the reason is her age. She looks older, and she is older. than Superman, and Lois should not look like she's 10 years older. But I think if you gave me somebody like, I had heard the rumor that John Hamm would have been a potential choice. He's a little bit older than what I would have gone with, but if you told me John Hamm was Lex Luthor, I'd buy it so much more than Jesse Eisenberg. You told me Jesse Eisenberg's in the movie and don't tell me who he's playing, I would have been like, oh, he's a great Jimmy Olsen.
Yeah.
One other topic I wanted to mention before we end the Superman versus Batman general talk, and then we move on to some of the other things. Who do you want to see as the secondary villain in the movie? It can't just be Lex, obviously. So there got to be somebody for them to punch.
Right.
Who do you want in it, Dace?
It's tough. I think it depends which direction they go. If they go into battling each other, I don't think you need the secondary villain. I think you can use Lex as the middleman, kind of like a Loki role that just starts turning them on each other. Then you don't need that secondary villain. If they don't fight each other, or they do a brief, I'm gonna punch Superman, realize that my fist broke, and I'm not gonna do it anymore. Um, to me, it would have to be another sophisticated villain from the more or less the Batman side of it. So like a Ra's al Ghul, but he's been overdone. Just something of that nature. Maybe Deathstroke, just to get someone who's more intellectual and not like a Killer Croc or something. So to me, if they stick with the Superman versus Batman idea, Lex is the only villain they need.
Who would you have if they needed, because they need somebody for Superman to punch, possibly? I mean, you take a Kryptonian, he can withstand the punch, but if you give him
Mhm.
somebody like a Ra's al Ghul, he'll knock him out in one shot.
The only villain that I enjoyed Superman battling across, because I really do not care for the Superman character, um, is Darkseid. But I think Darkseid is better saved for a Justice League movie. Same with as a Doomsday. It's just you need someone to match the Superman power and strength, and then you find someone like that, and you make Batman null and void. So it's going to be a very hard task for them to do. But if they need someone to punch, why not Doomsday? It could be a predecessor to Darkseid.
I'll throw a name out for you guys to think about. Metallo. What do you think about, who would you like to see, Orion?
Well, in my opinion, I believe Lex deserves some sort of henchman, someone he can throw at Superman and Batman, because Lex can be the mastermind in the background. I mean, of course, he's going to be in the foreground as Jesse Eisenberg, but he could be like the man plotting the downfall of Superman, and at the same time, like, you got this Batman problem too, so might as well take care of him. So we need like a secondary villain that could not only face Batman but also Superman. And I'm not too familiar with the DC catalog, but I was just entertaining the thought right now. Since they're going to go into a Justice League movie and maybe start an entire DC universe, cinematic universe franchise, there's a character I know of. I guess his name is Black Adam.
Mhm.
He's part of the Shazam, Captain Marvel, or whatever you call him franchise. I think it'd be cool. You'd definitely have to heavily rework Black Adam's origins, but I know that one of Superman's weaknesses is magic. So somehow we can get Lex Luthor to contract Black Adam somehow. I mean, I think Black Adam has some sort of Egyptian background. I don't know. You'd have to tell me because I don't know too much about Black Adam. But he seems like the kind of antithesis to Superman in that he's an evil Superman type of thing with Superman's weakness in magic. So perhaps Black Adam as a sort of secondary henchman type of thing for Lex Luthor, who maybe later on becomes uncontrollable. Perhaps that Lex Luthor unleashed this terrible force and he can't exactly control it.
Makes
So I
sense.
mean, it's far fetched and everything, but it would also open up for perhaps a Shazam movie or something in the future.
Sam, what do you think? Who should be taking the punches from Superman in this movie?
Well, there's two different ways that I see this. The first way is, and the way that I hope they do it, is that there is nobody for Superman to punch. I think there was so much physical action for Superman in Man of Steel that now it would be interesting for Lex to kind of stand there and say, "You beat the shit out of your fellow Kryptonians. You literally broke Zod's neck. Come on, I dare you to punch me. Like, you can't punch me." Where the Kryptonians, the only way he could beat them was physically. Well, now he's got somebody that is his mental superior. And now it's almost like the bully in school who's like, "Go ahead, punch me," while the teacher's standing right there. Like, he's egging Superman on, knowing Superman isn't going to do a damn thing about it, while the entire public, who some people saw him as the hero, some people probably blamed him for doing it. If you win those people over and you really make him look like a hero, he he has to restrain himself.
That's a good
If
point.
you went with somebody to actually fight him, I was thinking either Brainiac or Metallo. I was thinking either LexCorp creates Metallo as a defense against Superman,
Same
or as
thing
like
I'm going with.
yeah, a military contract maybe where he already had some run-in with the military in Man of Steel, where maybe they hired LexCorp to be like, "Yo, we'll trust this guy, but we better have a backup in case he turns all Zod on us." Brainiac could be a possibility where you already had Zod say that there was a beacon that led them to him. Well, maybe this same beacon was picked up by Brainiac. I don't want to say it's rehashing the Kryptonian invasion, since isn't Brainiac Kryptonian, or am I making that up?
There's two different versions of the character. Sometimes he's not, and he's just this green alien who happens to be super smart from another country, yeah, another country. He's from fucking France, um, from another planet, and he's named Vril Rox or something. Vril Dox, I think is what it is. But that's the green Brainiac from the old time where it was like they called him Brainiac because he's got a big head and comics were silly at that time. I personally like the idea of the one from the animated series where he's the artificial intelligence from Krypton.
Yeah. So if you go that route, I could definitely see Brainiac as being an option, but I really like Metallo, where LexCorp creates Metallo as a way, and he could even, like in many of the incarnations they show him, he could LexCorp could actually create kryptonite
Right.
based on some of the Kryptonian weaponry that was left behind. I mean, Zod ripped off his own armor in the movie, and they didn't really go back into that. Lex could always have found it during cleanup and actually created either Metallo from that or weaponry from that.
That's exactly what I would end up going with. I think it's the one that makes the most sense and the most basic thing because you don't need to actually build much on Metallo. You've got a guy who wants to be in the suit. Okay, here you go. You're my henchman. Go fight
Right.
Superman. Like, you don't need to build it. You can build up Batman and um, Lex Luthor in the process instead, not devote any time to that character.
Yeah. So I would either vote that, or I would vote there is nobody for Superman to hit, so that now he needs to actually bring his character up front where he can't hit him. He has to outsmart him. And that way, if there is somebody like Metallo, then there's nothing for Batman to do. Unless you turn it into a Superman versus Metallo and Lex versus Batman. But then Batman, I would just imagine, would kick Lex's ass in a physical fight unless Lex had some sort of exosuit like he has in many of the other stories.
A little preliminary Metallo suit is what I would go with.
Yeah,
The test subject sort of thing.
right.
What we're going to do is we're going to take a tiny bit of a break here, and we're going to come back in part 2 and talk about Wonder Woman, The Flash, Green Lantern, and all of the other offshoot characters that are going to play a part in the film franchise.